All righty, so record stocks again today. All the indexes, record territory. Bonds nice and flat, 409 for the 10-year. Anyway, record stocks, roaring Trumponomics. Seems a lot more important than shutdowns to me. Joining us now, Art Laffer, former Reagan economist, and Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from New York. Welcome to both of you. So I'll begin with Claudia Tenney, who's not been around. She's been dissing me. I have not seen her in months and years and the whole 9 yards. Anyway, the point is...
I miss you so much, Larry.
I miss you too. So anyway, now we went back and looked. The 35-day shutdown in 2018 and 2019, which is one of the longer ones on record, and certainly the longest one in quite some time. Anyway, the first quarter of 2019 was 3.1% growth. Big number, 3.1% growth. We went and looked it up, okay? So that's one of many reasons why I'm not really sure this shutdown is going to have any kind of significant economic impact. But anyway, Claudia Tenney, what are you thinking?
I think you're right. And I also think that, this is going to be short term because the Democrats are just treading water right now. And they also realize that I think people should know, and you talked with some of your earlier guests, both Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer got their political starts in New York State legislature. Even Hakeem sat next to me in the assembly. They're one-stage rockets. They're talentless. They don't know how to get off the ground. And this is going to end quicker than I think, unless they really continue to mess this up, because they're seeing that tax cuts, which we did, the miraculous tax cuts that you just had our great speaker on, who was able to get that across the finish line, signed into law on July 4th, cutting down needless regulations and over-regulation that we have, and also unleashing American energy and giving us what we need to build and grow an economy, grow out of this debt and everything we're having. So that's why I think you see more stability there. I mean, obviously, this is the beginning. We have another reconciliation package, but, it's almost like people are not buying into this shutdown thing anymore. And also for an amazing situation, the Democrats, I think, have made a colossal error. And I think that we have the upper hand on this.
There you go.
And President Trump is playing it perfectly.
That's the key point. Arthur, I want to, it's funny, as much as I love Claudia, I don't want to rush the shutdown ending because Russ Vought and President Trump have a chance to change the architecture of the federal budget. They can downsize the federal budget and change that thing more than perhaps the last 100 years. They have a chance to do it. Because without funding, the president, the executive, can reduce programs, can reduce federal employees. Lots of wonderful things could happen here, Arthur. That's why I'm not in any rush. And meanwhile, we have all these fabulous investment incentives. There's a business CapEx boom going on. Factories are going up. The economy, 3.8 in Q2, and the Atlanta Fed is saying 3.8 in Q3. So, I mean, what's the rush, Art? That's what I'm saying. What's the rush?
There's an old phrase, Larry, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yes.
And you just let these guys go, let them play it. Now, I don't want us to try to encourage the shutdown to last longer. I don't want us to do that.
No, that would be terrible.
If Jeffries and Schumer want to keep it going, there are two things. They're giving us the biggest gift ever politically, and they're also giving Vought and Trump a chance to really take out some of the areas that are really inefficient in the system. And what you noticed about GDP growth, which is really amazing, we have very high GDP growth for this period of time, and we also have very, very low employment growth for this period of time, which tells you that the marginal workers are not very productive. They are not. And what you're seeing happening is with all the border closed down and the sending the illegals back, we're losing their employment, but it's not hurting GDP at all. Productivity is increasing dramatically.
Yes.
Interest rates are not going up, which means inflation is really coming down quite sharply, because normally with productivity growth rising, the real interest rate should rise. But if the real interest rate is not rising, it means that inflation is falling faster than the real rate is rising. It's a win, 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 win. And again, if I may just repeat myself, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. I mean, if the enemy's going to hang himself, for heaven's sakes, don't get in the way of that one. Anyone's going. But to Claudia, it's so interesting. I mean, the economy. What really matters here is not the shutdown per se, but all the tremendous incentives in the one big beautiful bill that Arthur's talking about. I mean, there's a capital goods boom. There's a factory boom. There's a lot of money coming into the USA. And, the tariff stuff is working probably better than a lot of people thought possible. But we're growing. We're growing rapidly, okay? That's the point. So I was just thinking, Claudia, maybe a few extra days, what happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas, okay? Whatever is non-essential should stay non-essential, Claudia. It'll take Russ vote a couple of days more to crank out. This could be the biggest change in the budget in a long time, Claudia. I mean, it's just a lot of, and that, by the way, downsizing the budget is very pro-growth, isn't it? It's very growthy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very growthy. I love that. But, obviously, I love that you're quoting the great Sun Tzu about letting the enemy destroy themselves and don't get in the way. Look, this is another thing, Larry, is remember when we talk about a shutdown, everyone's like, oh, the whole government shut down. Well, only discretionary spending is the only thing in play. And that's like close to 75, 80% of the government continues to chug away. We haven't hit that mandatory spending, although we worked on that and got some of that in, the Trump tax cuts renewal, this new bill. There's a lot of amazing things in there that are going to continue to work and sustain us. And I think that's really important. Now, I'll tell you another thing. I want to give credit to a lot of my members. When we had our Republican call with Russ Vote just a few days ago, great ideas. And one of them came from one of my colleagues from Georgia, actually, Austin Scott. He said, hey, Russ, why don't you look into some of these programs that are unauthorized, but they're continuing to be funded since the 80s. These are, they've obsolescence. So let's get rid of those. There's a lot of things, to your point, what we could do to really clean up a lot of the wasted mess. And remember, everyone says, well, that's not a lot, but you cut a budget. I remember a county executive in my area said, you don't cut it off $1 million at a time, you cut it off 10,000 at a time. And there's probably thousands of those programs and other similar waste, fraud and abuse in our government that we don't even know about. So I think there's a big opportunity for us vote when you say that.
I mean, Arthur, you already got about 300,000, 275,000 federal employees voluntarily. They're voluntarily leaving. They're being bought out. They have a lot of incentives and so forth. But, you could have another 400,000 or more. I mean, you could cut federal employment. You could cut federal employment by nearly 1/2 through this entire shutdown experience. Honestly. I mean, and put them into the private sector, where, as John Carney said last night, they'd be a lot more productive in the private sector than they would be pushing paper in the government sector. I'll give you the last word, Art Laffer.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. The last word, though, really should be, Larry, the stock market tells us that this is not a bad thing.
Yes,
the stock market's saying that the future looks really great, and all of this coming through, as you said, this is an opportunity of a lifetime to bring it down. I love Claudia's phrase, what was it, $1 billion here, $1 billion there? Sooner or later, it adds up to real money. And it's true. We are really making major progress. We got over 3 years left to really knock it down, and I'm excited. And again, the gift from Jeffries and Schumer to us is enormous. Thank you, Larry.
The stock market is telling an important story. New record highs today. Absolutely. Yes. Claudia Tenney, thank you very, very much. Art Laffer, thank you, sir.